Everyone has a story. And so does everything. Antique, vintage, or curio.
Honestly, so exciting to see a doll like this from the 1800s in such incredible condition.
Like, we've had collections that have sold for, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Technological innovations, cultural significance, personal memories. What is it that gives each of these unique items their timeless quality?
Can't find these anywhere.
No.
Join us as we blow off the dust and breathe new life into the past and the curious. In this episode of The Past and the Curious, we explore regal symbols, historic furniture, and a relic from a legendary elephant's legacy. Discover the story of Jumbo the elephant's tusk.
He was extremely effective as a marketing tool. The star of all the billboards. People came to see Jumbo. There was always a circus parade. Jumbo was the prominent part of that.
Examine General Isaac Brock's dining room chair.
This particular chair would have been from the late 18th century, coming over from England. It was just such an amazing piece to be made at that time period.
Uncover the history behind the British coat of arms.
I went and looked at it in Toronto. It was a retired antique dealer that owned the piece that had hung in a shop for about 50 years. My name is Dan Brown, and today I brought in the plastered crest coat of arms. When I first purchased the coat of arms, it struck me the size of it and the history behind it. And I love everything about it.
In medieval Europe, the art of heraldry began, a practice of designing coats of arms for knights and royalty to be identifiable on the battlefield. From these origins, the British coat of arms evolved, encapsulating the nation's identity and sovereignty. Each monarch, from Edward III to George VI, left their mark on the coat of arms, reflecting the political and territorial shifts of their times. Edward III's edition of the French royal arms showcased England's ambitions, while Henry IV's motto and changes in the French arms deepened its heraldic identity. Initially a symbol of royal power and authority, the coat of arms represented the monarch's rule, crucial in an era of low public literacy. Today, it stands as a historical testament, a reminder of a time when symbols defined status and power, weaving the tapestry of Britain's royal and national heritage.
Welcome, Dan, to the show, and thanks for bringing this amazing, very large piece of history. First of all, where did you get this?
So about 4 years ago, I was scrolling through Marketplace, and I come across this. I went and looked at it in Toronto. It was a retired antique dealer that owned the piece that had hung in a shop for about 50 years.
Okay. Did he have any information about where it came from?
Yeah, he had very little, other than it was approximately about 150 years old, and it was made of plaster.
And what would you say this is?
From the research that I've done, a pre-1921 Canadian coat of arms.
Well, Dan, you're not too far off because it's very similar in appearance. But this, to me, is the British or the Royal coat of arms. And I'll tell you why. First of all, the Canadian coat of arms, the lion would be holding a maple leaf. There would be maple leaves here, and there would be a different saying on it, which in English is C to C, but it would be in French, and it would say Amer, Uske, Admer. So one other thing that would also be different is this would be fleur-de-lis in the Canadian.
Okay.
Everything it says lines up with the English version or the Royal version. Honi su qui mali pense would mean shame to those who think evil of it. And this here, Dieu et mon droit, would mean God and my right. So based on that, I would say you got a British coat of arms.
Can you tell me more about the history of the piece itself?
The coat of arms represents the ever-evolving political landscape of Britain. It was first made in the 12th century by the kings of Plantagenet. Why so much French is because at that time the French language was the dominant language, and that's why we see a lot of French language in here.
So is it a rare piece? Have you seen many things like this before?
I personally have not seen this size of the coat of arms. Who makes them? I'm not exactly sure. I think pretty much there's no real like copyright from it. Artists can make them, their own version of it. People who maybe carve wood have carved these out of wood. This particular one is in plaster, but they're also cast iron, that kind of thing. So there's lots of versions of both this and the Canadian coat of arms.
Okay. So how old do you think the piece is?
This particular piece is really hard for me to judge because I think it's all original to the backboard. I see there's staples in the back, just the way it's wired together. So to think it's into the 1800s, I personally don't think it's quite that old, but to say it's 1920s to 1950s, I would totally say that it could easily be into that range.
So do you think collectors nowadays would be interested in something like this?
I absolutely would think they would be interested. First of all, just for the enormous size of this thing, it's in great shape, especially given its age. And I think age is going to play a big part of this as well. It does have a little bit of damage as far as in here. Nothing I would be worried about because it's age and the material it's made from, but I'm surprised it lasted this long. And I think anybody who is interested in history would be absolutely interested in this piece. So Dan, where do you have this displayed in your house? What part of your life is this?
So right now it's prominently displayed in our living room over top of our sofa. Every time I look at it, I'm amazed at it. Just the detail alone, like I could sit and look at it for hours. My wife hates it. She doesn't like it at all. So I'm part Ukrainian and part French and Scottish.
Given your heritage, this represents you too, as far as the Scottish and the French. So the coat of arms has really been inspirational to other countries and newly developing countries such as Canada. This is a huge inspiration. And many countries just followed suit and started having their own coat of arms as well. This particular coat of arms is a great insight how British culture has changed over time. Thanks so much, Dan, for bringing this amazing piece of history into the studio today. What is the plan going forward?
I guess the plan is to let it hang over the sofa or in a special spot in the house, unless I get an offer I can't refuse.
So you'd be willing to part with this?
I think I would for the right price.
So for me to put a value on something like this, I would say it's very possible to be in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. But if you had more provenance, if you could say this hung in a courthouse, if this hung in a ship, if this was, that would probably even bring much more value to it.
I think I'm gonna take it home with me and keep it on the wall, and maybe if that special person comes along, then I may change my mind.
Thanks so much, Dan, for bringing this incredible piece of history to us today.
Oh, thanks for having me in and to share the history with me. So after talking with Scott today, it was knowing that it was a British coat of arms. Right from the beginning, and even what I was told when I bought it, was that it was a Canadian coat of arms. So that was a shock to me.
So one of the things that would be really interesting to know is where this gigantic piece was displayed, where it hung, and who made it. And without that maker's mark or the known provenance, it's really difficult to determine.
The past is calling. We'll answer it after the break.
It's an amazing piece of our local history. My name is Linny Steffler, and I brought in a Chippendale chair that I acquired at auction about 25 years ago. And I was told it was the last known chair that was owned by General Isaac Brock. So I was very pleased to have possession of it. It's been an absolute wonderful conversation piece.
In the early 19th century, North America was on the brink of a major conflict. The War of 1812, set against global power struggles, was about to reshape the continent's future. During this period of escalating tension, a significant figure emerged, Major General Sir Isaac Brock. As the expanding United States faced diplomatic challenges of expansion and diplomacy, Britain, with seasoned officers like Brock, prepared to defend its North American interests. Brock's strategic insight led him to ally with Tecumseh, a visionary Shawnee leader aiming to unite with other indigenous tribes against American encroachment. General Brock was poised to indelibly influence the War of 1812. His strategy to secure both American Fort Mackinac and Fort Detroit were early victories in the war. Brock died later that year in the pivotal Battle of Queenston Heights. His actions significantly shifted the war's trajectory, molding the continent's future.
Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Linny. Could you tell us about this interesting chair?
My pleasure. This chair was something I saw at auction, and suddenly they're talking about General Brock's dining room chair. So it really enthralled me, and probably I paid way too much for it back then, but I just had to have it. So I was really pleased.
Yeah, it's quite original. This particular chair would have been from the late 18th century, coming over from England in General Brock's now ownership. And it was just such an amazing piece to be made at that time period. So why did you choose to bring this on the show today?
Well, I think it is an amazing piece of our local history. General Brock at one point did live in Norfolk County, and he was part of the border wars with the US when we were trying to establish Canada as it is today. And he was actually here when he gathered all our militia and went down to fight the Battle of Detroit, along with McNichol, who's on the plaque in the old town of Dover and Port Dover today.
That's great. So this chair, the man seated in it, could potentially be responsible for Canada's borders.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
I think what we have here is something that was created between 1750 and 80, but I believe this may be from England, because look at the age that General Brock was and the fact that he was fighting here. We know that this probably came from England, and he probably got it in the 1760s, 1770s.
Wow.
In 1776, America went to war against the British and wanted to have an independent country. The British and the Loyalists all started to move north, and they wanted to establish a free country and British rule. Canada was actually all the way down to the White House at one point, and then they kept pushing up until we hit the Great Lakes, and that's sort of where the boundaries are now. So I guess the end of the war actually happened around 1814, 15, because that's when they were actually sat down and divided the territory.
So this is the War of 1812. General Brock was here leading the troops, and this chair is just such a symbol of that time period. This is really at a time when Canada needed to come together as a country and hold the Americans back so we could have our Canadian borders, just as much as this Chippendale kept General Brock at the dinner table. Brock actually had a very distinguished military career before even the War of 1812, with battles in the Netherlands and also the Caribbean.
Oh, maybe that explains why he dropped off in London to meet with some important people and picked up a new dining room furniture.
Exactly. So one of General Brock's biggest war achievements was the capture of Detroit, and he did sort of a psychological warfare where he made his army look much larger than it was, but it did create the retractment of the American troops. So Brock really understood the strategic alliance principle, where he partnered with the local indigenous people, and that really gave him the manpower to keep the Americans back.
He was a brilliant man. I'm happy to have this in my household.
So Chippendale furniture was very popular between 1750 and 1780. What would you know about Chippendale furniture?
Well, we know that Thomas Chippendale was British, and he was the writer of the first book that really landed in America on how to design and make Chippendale furniture. Thomas decided to use a different style to create his own, which included the Rococo, of course the Chinese, and the British style with the ball and claw.
So Chippendale was certainly a pioneer of furniture making. With all these different techniques, quality materials, it comes together in just such an extraordinary way.
And when you think of each piece is actually hand carved and created on its own, each piece is unique, makes it even more special.
And as Chippendale furniture evolved, became more ergonomic, and the materials also improved, and they're still evolving today.
That's true.
So what a piece. This is amazing, Linny. You must be so proud. Not only is this a fine example of furniture making by the Chippendales, but the whole history of the story with General Brock and the history of Dover is just amazing. And also, you know, going back to that time when people had families and would actually gather to eat in dining rooms.
It is a great story, and I hope more people drop by the castle if they're in the area, see the chair, take one of our walking tour brochures to explore Dover and the rest of Norfolk County.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for bringing in this piece of history today. I'm curious, what's your future plans for this chair?
Well, this chair is going back to Clonmel Castle, a heritage building, and it will be there on display for anyone who comes. It's a bit of a museum over there, so I'm sure it's going to be there for a good long while. I know chairs like this have gone for upwards of 100,000, even more. However, the last few decades, as houses shrunk and there wasn't the place for these chairs, they've become less popular. This one particularly could be worth, I would say, tens of thousands at this point. But what makes it very, very valuable is the history, because without that, it's just another Chippendale chair.
I agree, Lenny. You know, it definitely holds up its value in fine craftsmanship, but certainly the historical story that goes along with this chair is priceless. Thank you so much, Lenny, for coming on the show today and bringing this amazing piece of Canadian history.
My pleasure.
It's so amazing to have people like Lenny out there who are so interested in history that you can actually go to places like Clonmel Castle and hear stories of all different types of things. You never know what you're looking at and the story that it has to tell.
I'm looking forward to welcoming people that'd like to come by and have a tour and see the chair, and of course take a couple photos and tour the old town of historical Dover.
Our journey through time continues after the break.
It's a piece of jumbo, but it's an amazing piece of artwork.
My name is Steve Peters, and today I brought with me part of my collection, which is a slice of tusk that belonged to Jumbo the elephant, a commemorative piece that was produced in 1886.
Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, to witness the mesmerizing tale of Jumbo the elephant, the grandest spectacle to ever grace the stages of the circus world. From the dawn of time, circuses have captivated audiences with their dazzling displays of acrobats, clowns, and, of course, exotic animals. And none were more beloved than Jumbo, the majestic African elephant, whose journey from the Paris Zoo to the world of P.T. Barnum captured the hearts of millions. But tragedy struck when Jumbo met his untimely end in a railway accident in southwestern Ontario. P.T. Barnum, the master showman, immortalized Jumbo's memory by slicing his tusks into pieces and distributing them as souvenirs to his inner circle. The pieces of tusk were passed around and have been scattered across the globe. They are symbols of Jumbo's larger-than-life presence and the enduring allure of the circus.
Steve, thanks so much for coming in today with this very interesting piece. Can you tell me what I'm looking at?
Well, you're looking at a piece of Jumbo the elephant's tusk. Jumbo was part of the Barnum and Bailey circus. The significant thing about Jumbo is that he was an African elephant. The vast majority of elephants that people would see at a circus were Asian elephants. They're much smaller, they're easier to train. The African elephant was a total different story. So when Barnum acquired Jumbo in 1882, he immediately became the top attraction of the circus.
And it really seems like other circuses were trying to get elephants to even compare to Jumbo, but nobody ever did.
Nobody ever did. Jumbo was Jumbo. You know, there's varying accounts of his size, but he's about 11.5 feet high and weighed approximately 7 tons. The circumference around his belly was 18 feet. His heart weighed 46 pounds. So we know Jumbo had a good heart as well, too.
Steve, what is it about this particular piece that stands out the most to you?
It's just the care that was taken in creating these, the detail of King of the Elephants being born in Africa in 1861 and passing away in St. Thomas, and talking about some of the work that was done by Ward's establishment in New York City. And there's lettering all around the outside, but the graphics on the other side are just gorgeous. With this coat of arms, it's a piece of Jumbo, but it's an amazing piece of artwork.
What can you tell me about Jumbo's demise?
And in 1885, the circus visited St. Thomas, Ontario. He was struck by a train and killed, and P.T. Barnum wanted to preserve the fame of Jumbo and had Jumbo stuffed and had his bones mounted by a taxidermist named Henry Ward in Rochester, New York. During that process, one of the tusks had been broken, so Ward came up with the idea to create these commemorative tusks of Jumbo, and they're beautifully painted and inscribed, virtually telling the whole life story of Jumbo.
Oh my gosh, well, what an incredible commemorative piece. If I look at the picture of Jumbo here, I can see that his tusks were quite small. How rare would a piece like this be to own?
I think extremely rare.
We know that this left tusk was damaged when Jumbo was hit by the train, but much of his tusk still extended inside. So I've done a lot of research over the years, and I don't think that there's too many of these in existence.
There can't be. It's incredible.
He was extremely effective as a marketing tool. The star of all the billboards, people came to see Jumbo. There was always a circus parade. Jumbo was the prominent part of that. And Jumbo traveled with Barnum from 1882 until 1885. And then after Jumbo was stuffed in 1886, Barnum continued to make money out of him with what he called the double jumbo, because you had this life-size stuffed Jumbo and the Jumbo bones, and he would bring them to the circus side by side. So Barnum continued to market them, and then the stuffed Jumbo ended up at Tufts University just outside of Boston. And even to this date, the Tufts are known as the Tufts Jumbos.
It is just synonymous with anything big. And the name
Lives on. Every time I hear something Jumbo this or Jumbo that, I know where it has all come from. And it's come from one big African elephant. You know, I have things in my collection, Jumbo cigar boxes, Jumbo soda pop. There's a large bottle from Quebec, a 60-ounce pop bottle that has Jumbo on it. There's a company in Cincinnati that had Jumbo peanut butter.
A number of companies in the United States utilize the term Jumbo for their products.
But it's still lived on today. You know, we call it the Jumbo Jet. We talk about the Jumbotron. We talk about Jumbo hot dogs and Jumbo sausages. And, you know, a well-known meat company who sells hot dogs had a promotion a few years back with their Jumbo Sizzlers. And who was part of the imaging? Jumbo the elephant. So it is very much part of advertising, and it's amazing as a collector the number of products that I have that have utilized the Jumbo name and the Jumbo image as well.
I hadn't realized the connection between using Jumbo as a description to exactly this. It's pretty incredible. Steve, when you look at this piece of ivory and your collection as a whole, what does it make you think about?
Well, sadly, how animals have been treated over the years in circuses or in zoos, the wear and tear that Jumbo would have had to go through every day, in and out of a train, you know, walking in a parade every day. It's part of our history, and we need to remember the past so we can pass it on to future generations.
Absolutely. And Jumbo really did move mountains as far as the treatment of animals in performance in circus. Steve, thank you so much for coming on today with this incredible piece of Jumbo history. Can you tell me what your plan is with it moving forward?
Well, my ultimate plan with the whole extent of my Jumbo collection is I don't want to see it sold off at an auction. I want to see it preserved for future generations, and I've already been working with our local museum in St. Thomas to make that happen.
I think a piece like this, where it is so rare and such a huge piece of circus history, St. Thomas history, Jumbo history, it really ended up with the right person. So it's very exciting that it's part of your collection, and I love that you plan to have it saved in a museum so that everyone can enjoy it for a time to come. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show today and teaching me so much about Jumbo's history.
My pleasure.
It was pretty mind-blowing to see an actual piece of Jumbo the elephant today. I never would have imagined I'd have this opportunity, and it was such an exciting but sad piece of circus history.
Collectors love to share their collections with other people, and that's what I've appreciated with today is just the chance to show off some of the items from my collection and teach people a little more.